Hey everyone, welcome to Art School Live. I am not 𝗏𝗏𝘁. I'm 𝗪𝗏𝘂𝗶𝘀. I've been with Streamline for 13 years, and I am filling in for Eric while he is preparing for Acrylic Live. So I'm very happy to be here. I love doing these shows, and thank you so much for joining us and for watching wherever in the world you are watching from. With us today, we have artist Rick Wilson. He began his art career in 2003. He studied with 𝗖𝗹𝗪𝘂𝗶𝘁 and with 𝗪𝗶𝗫 from the Fredericksburg Art School. And I want to welcome Rick.
Well,
Hi, Rick.
hello, Carrie. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm getting over a little bit bronchitis. So if I clear my throat a couple of times during this, I apologize. But doing great. Feeling much better.
Good. You're from Indiana, correct?
Yes.
From where in Indiana are you from?
I'm from Edinburgh, Indiana.
I don't know where that is. I only know Fort Wayne area.
Okay. Well, Indianapolis is right in the center of the state, and we're about 30 miles south of Indianapolis.
Okay, great.
So in the southern third of the state.
I grew up in Ohio, so we always would go to Indiana for, fun things like Fort Wayne, or we used to camp over there. So it's a nice area.
Yeah, I love Ohio too. There's some great areas of Ohio, like the Hocking Hills area.
I grew up in Ohio and I've never been to Hocking Hills.
Oh, wow. Well, you'll have to treat yourself sometime.
Sometime. We'll get back there. Rick, what are you going to share with us today?
Well, I thought I would share the anatomy of clouds and the science behind clouds and how that can help you improve your painting of clouds by understanding the science.
I think that's going to be great because mine usually, they just look awful whenever I try to paint them. So I'm really excited about this, actually. Clouds are hard.
Well, hopefully by the end, you'll be able to paint some more realistic looking clouds.
I hope so. Let's go ahead and get this show started.
It's All right. Art School Live with 𝗏𝗏𝗁𝗏. Now, here's your host, 𝗏𝗏𝗁𝗏.
𝗪𝗏𝗂𝗏𝗀. Welcome everybody to Art School Live. I'm 𝗪𝗏𝗂𝗏𝗀 filling in for 𝗏𝗏𝗁𝗏, who is prepping for Acrylic Live, our virtual event that's taking place this week. I'm super excited to be hosting for you guys this week. And with us today, we have Rick Wilson. He is going to be talking to us about the anatomy and the science of clouds so that we can paint more realistic clouds. And I really need this tutorial, so I'm very excited for today. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Rick and we're going to learn about clouds.
Hey, how we doing?
Good.
Good. Well, hello, everybody. Glad you can join us. And I'm thrilled to be here and really excited to be talking to you about clouds. Clouds are interesting and they can really do a great service to your paintings in that, well, clouds are inspirational. For instance, we've all sat out in lawn chairs in the summertime watching clouds go by and just staring at the clouds, looking at objects in the clouds. Well, that's our imagination stirring, and we as artists, we can tap into that inspiration from clouds. Clouds can create moods. The fair weather clouds that I was just talking about in the summertime, can create a happy mood, and because we're outside, we're enjoying the sunshine, we're enjoying the shade that the clouds will occasionally give us when they cross paths with the sun. And then there's the gloomy days, the overcast days that are just kind of gray and not very inspiring. And there aren't a lot of paintings with just a gray overcast sky because they're not so inspirational. But then you got the stormy skies that create a lot of drama. And that drama, those are my favorite kind of clouds to paint, especially at the end of a storm where the clouds are breaking up and you got little peaks of blue, what I call little peaks of inspiration or not inspiration, but little peeps of hope. And so I like to really take advantage of those dramatic clouds. And as artists, we should, because as artists, what we're trying to create is a mood. something that will capture the viewer's imagination and memories. You know, we want our viewer to look at our painting and think back, oh, wow, that reminds me of fill in the blank. So, and clouds can do that because we all have memories of clouds and experiences with clouds. So that's why I want to, present this at this time, and not just paint clouds as part of a landscape, but to understand clouds and how clouds can not just be a backdrop to a landscape painting, but an actual contributor.
Mm-hmm. Great.
So the science of clouds, what makes a cloud? Atmospheric conditions. We've got warm, moist air that rises from large bodies of water, the ocean, and that warm, moist air rises and hitches a ride on those air currents that surrounds the Earth. And those air currents, they swirl around at different locations and different directions. And so that warm, moist air hitches a ride on a air current and pulls it over landmass. And then what happens is then you've got cool air coming down from the north, and that mixes with that warm, moist air. When that warm, moist air hits that cold air, it condenses into little water vapors, and those water vapors is what forms the clouds. And where that happens, where that water vapor rises and meets the cool air that's coming down, and they hit where that level is in the atmosphere is called the dew point. So you've seen the clouds, we'll call them the cumulus clouds, and those are the puffy clouds that have flat bottoms. And you can see here on the photograph the flat bottoms of those clouds. They're a little dark because they're in the shade. That is the dew point. That's where that warm air touches the cold air and begins to condense.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. And what's the purpose of clouds? Besides our amusement, the purpose of clouds is water distribution. And what happens is, that warm, moist air condenses into cooler air and flows over land. Well, what happens is if enough of that moisture condenses and churns up in the atmosphere, it creates more action, if you will, and that condensation will get higher in the atmosphere and condense more, and those droplets merge together and reach a point where they're too heavy to stay in the cloud and they fall as rain. And so that's why we have rain. That rain is the secret to life on Earth. So that's the water distribution element of clouds. And then the other purpose is temperature control. If it weren't for clouds, the surface of the Earth would get extremely hot. Mm-hmm. And so the Earth has provided a very balanced mixture of atmospheric conditions that help cool the Earth as well. And so when we have those cloudy days or a good mix of clouds, then that helps, that acts as a blanket to keep that heat off of the surface of the Earth. So we achieve balance.
Interesting.
Yeah. I love science. Science is awesome. And so the types of clouds, there are several different types. Cumulus clouds, which are the fair weather clouds we talked about, those are cumulus clouds. They're non-threatening, and they're just little puffs of condensed moisture floating around in the atmosphere. And those are the ones we really like. That because we know we're not under any kind of weather threat. So we love cumulus. Cirrus clouds, those are the high atmosphere clouds that are actually ice crystals. And they're kind of a wispy kind of cloud. The higher in the atmosphere, you've got really strong winds. And so those winds prevent those clouds from accumulating and creating these puffy little clouds. So So they're strung out quite a bit. So those are the high altitude cirrus clouds. And they can be interesting in a painting. I've seen a number of those in a lot of the historic paintings. You know, the 𝗪𝗏𝘁 or the Hudson River paintings, and those can be used effectively in a painting.
Yeah.
Nimbus clouds, probably one of my favorite clouds to paint.
Yeah.
Are the mixture of rain clouds and the higher altitude clouds. And they can be broken up where you see little peaks of optimism or peaks of blue in them, and they create an awesome drama in a painting. In fact, I will do skyscapes with minimal land mass in it, and create paintings with the nimbus clouds. And those lower hanging clouds, especially after a rainstorm, you get rain that will create clouds, and those are really low hanging clouds. In fact, you can see some in this picture here, the darker clouds closer to the ground, and those create another interesting element for a painting. And so I love painting those into a picture. Cumulonimbus clouds are a collection of cumulus clouds that are merging together and creating a lot more of the turbulence in the atmosphere. And they keep building, and the warm air is rising, the cool air is dropping, and it creates this vortex inside the cloud of churning air that continues to build higher and higher until it reaches you know, a point to where it will amble off at the top. In other words, flatten off because of those high atmosphere winds. And then, so once again, you know, as I mentioned earlier, all that churning inside will create these rain droplets, or even if the rain droplets get high enough in the clouds, they'll actually freeze, and then they will drop, catch another air current, and rise and drop and rise, and then continue that until that frozen raindrop becomes so big it can't stay up there, and they'll drop as hail. And
oh, interesting.
Yeah. Science is a really interesting thing, and I love clouds. So
yeah, I love
wanted to
learning
learn
all
as
this.
much.
I love clouds, so this is a great lesson.
Well, thank you. I hope everyone finds it interesting. We'll get past the science here pretty soon here and get painting, but just kind of wanted to go over the different types of clouds. Stratus clouds are an overcast cloud, and it's that gray day cloud, and that's a stratocumulus that's on the picture now. And stratocumulus are the stratus clouds that kind of break up and are becoming cumulus clouds. So that's a different type of cloud. But the stratus cloud is just your sheet of gray. And so that creates that not so fun day where you're just tired all day and you're not getting any sunshine. And so so that's kind of the science of the clouds, and you know, what makes a cloud and the purpose of clouds and the different cloud formations. And so I say, you know, we're a few minutes into this, we probably should get painting.
Yeah, I find it really interesting. Before you get to that, I just have one comment, is where I live on the Front Range in Colorado, clouds form over the mountains here. So instead of forming over the ocean coming in. So I love watching them form over the mountains, because especially like every day around 2 o'clock, you know, in the summertime, that's when you get a thunderstorm. Everything is just coming together. But I love just watching just the way that they move, and there's so many different types. But the big difference is in Colorado, we have 300 days of sunshine. So even if it is a cloudy day, at some point during the day, we're going to still get a lot of sun. So I do love that.
Yeah, well,
we get some really nice like sunsets and stuff too.
Yeah, on the east side of the mountains in Colorado, that's considered an arid zone. And so there's very little moisture in the atmosphere. So any clouds that form because of the mountains, and they roll over the mountains and come down and then evaporate because there's not enough moisture in the air to support them.
Yep, especially really when we get really hot in August and September. It's
Yeah.
very, very few clouds on those days. Okay,
Yeah.
well, let's get painting then.
All right. Well, I'm going to turn the camera around here, and so I don't know if you wanted to stay on me while I'm doing that, but yeah, I'll turn the camera around and we'll get to painting. And I've painted a couple of different landscapes here with a background sky that I can paint over, and I'll be painting over acrylic so that I can paint them out.
So the background is in acrylic, but you're painting in oil?
I'm painting in oil. The background is painted in oil, previously painted, and I'm going to be painting on an acrylic sheet so I can remove that sheet and then go to another different type of cloud.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So what I've got here, that you can see here, is a sunset.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just start with a cirrus cloud. We'll just start with the easiest first. So I'm going to mix up a little paint here. I'm going to mix ultramarine blue and a little bit of red, create a purple, and add just a little bit of raw umber to kill the chroma a little bit. A little white. This is off camera, so and when I'm painting clouds, I'm keeping in mind that the atmosphere rotates around and over.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so the further away, the more compressed the sky gets. So starting down here, we're going to keep it kind of flat.
Is there a particular brush that you use for different kinds of clouds, or you can use the same one for all of them?
I've done complete paintings with one brush, so it really doesn't matter that much. It's what you're comfortable with, and on this particular painting, I'm using a softer brush just because I'm painting over acrylic, and so there's no nap to like there would be if it was a canvas.
Right.
So,
those already look realistic.
well, what's cool about this, I'm painting on a really thin 30 seconds of an inch thick acrylic, and it's casting a shadow on the painting underneath it. So,
yeah,
the shadow part's already done for me. So, so
so painting on the acrylic, is that just to kind of get an idea for what kind of clouds are going to look best in this painting?
no, that's just strictly for this demonstration.
Okay.
So that when I'm finished painting this painting, I can strip this away, put another piece of acrylic on, and paint another
Gotcha.
cloud type.
I like it. I think that's a great idea though too.
Well, that way, I've got one background that I can use and then strip the acrylic away.
Yeah.
And just keep going. As we get a little closer and higher, we have that aerial perspective. So in the back, we want to make sure that we gray out those clouds because they're further away and there's a lot more atmosphere between us as the viewer or the artist and those clouds. So we want to keep those grayed out a little bit more. And then as we move forward, these little ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson create this purple, and again a little bit of raw umber to kill the chroma, and then we get a little darker as we raise. I want to add just a little bit of medium to that to thin it down just a little bit. There we go. But these are the cirrus clouds that are just kind of wispy and high level ice crystal type clouds. So very easy to paint, but they can create a nice mood for the painting.
Mm-hmm.
And what I like to do, kind of clean the brush off, and this probably works better on canvas than it does on acrylic, is just kind of go back and soften edges, because we don't want any hard edges with cirrus clouds.
Yeah, see, that's something I always struggle with too. I paint in pastel, so I always try to soften, but then I end up softening too much, and I either look like I have blobs or hard lines.
Oh, yeah. I've never tried acrylic. I'm going to have to do that sometime. And there we have wispy little, want to kind of fill in some blanks here, wispy cirrus clouds.
I like it.
Yeah. And so we'll set this one aside, grab a new acrylic.
I don't know why this, like, I feel like this is just like the most genius thing ever. I don't know why. There's probably a lot of artists who do it, but I've never seen it done before, and I just think it's brilliant.
Well, yeah, I thought long and hard on how to do this presentation, and so I thought, well, the only thing changing, I got these acrylic panels do carry a lot of static, and they pick up a lot of dust.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I was thinking, how could I be efficient in this demonstration? And so the idea came to, well, let's paint on glass or paint on acrylic. So I got online and found some acrylic panels that were the perfect size, and so I bought them and got them and practiced with them, and it's like, okay, this works.
Yeah.
So that's
No,
how
I
it
think
came about.
yeah, it's brilliant, not just for your demo, but also like people are talking in the chat, just like testing out an idea. If, hey, I want to see if this looks good here, let's try it on this first. That way, because I know, like, I'm like, oh, hey, let's try this. And I do it. And I'm like, oh, that's terrible. I ruined the painting.
Well, I tell my students, first of all, it's just paint.
Yeah.
Okay. So don't be afraid, and don't be afraid to mess up, because messing up is where we learn the lessons.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to those happy little puffy clouds, those cumulus, and we'll start here and basically just randomly throw some clouds in here. So these are the happy little clouds, we'll call them, and then again, as they get further away, they get smaller and flatter because they're being compressed. And what we want to be careful about is too many repeating patterns. So we want to make sure that we're creating variety. At the same time, we're creating something that's kind of alike. This one's really close, so what I'm going to do is darken this so we're seeing just the underneath side. And since we're working on a sunset here, there's going to be light illuminating parts of these. So what I'd kind of like to do then is grab a smaller brush. Grab a little bit of cad yellow medium and some white, and create little highlights. So on this one, the sun is already set, so the light is coming from underneath. It's little highlights around all these, lighten these up a little bit. Oops.
So will you go back in and do the same thing with softening those edges?
Yeah, I'll kind of blend a little bit. Maybe even creating some, some thin ones that are just catching light and they're too thin to even cast a shadow. Basically creating that halo around the clouds. So yeah, you kind of getting the idea here that your light source, wherever it's coming from, making sure that we honor that and add light where it's appropriate.
So someone is asking, let me scroll back up to that, do you think of clouds as having sides, bottoms, and tops? How does perspective work with that?
Yes, absolutely. Clouds are a shape that have top, bottom, sides, and so that's why the bottoms of these of clouds, like the cumulus clouds that we talked about, are dark in color because the light source, which is above, doesn't pass through the clouds because of the high moisture content.
Gotcha. So do you add, with what you're doing, are you just using that one highlight color, or are you going to use a transition color too, or just blend the two together?
Probably just blend the two together. I'm adding just a little bit of cad red to kind of blend it into the purple color of the shadow part of the cloud, because we have like this area right here, we'll say there's a little bit more light shining through it, so let's add some of that red purple in here to indicate that this is a little thinner part of the cloud that light is shining through.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we'll kind of soften these edges a little bit. The clouds seldom have a hard edge.
Mm-hmm.
Create a little bit of dimension in the clouds here. So we don't just have flat clouds. Little, what I call tails or trails.
Carl is asking, how would you create a low-laying fog layer creeping in from the left of the painting below the higher cumulus clouds?
Good question.
Very specific.
Let's find out how we would do that. So In this weather scenario, that probably wouldn't exist so much. But just for the sake of the question, let's create a little fog bank. So there's just mixed up a nice little gray here. Okay, we're getting a little closer to the light source, and I'm going to add some of this, the yellow and a little bit of red, because it's going to be picking up that background color. It might be too much here, but let's see. Yeah, let's kind of put some more of the gray back into it. It's kind of fading in too much into the background color.
Ooh, I love that. Change the mood.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, fog is like a cloud, so it has different degrees of density. And so that's kind of what we're doing here, is creating those different densities. It's going to be a little more dense toward the bottom. Okay. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
That looks nice.
So we'll just create some misty the fog breaking up a little bit there. Okay. Any other questions on this type of cloud?
No, not so far.
Okay. Well, let's move on, if you want to a
Okay,
different
let's
type
go.
of cloud. Again, sorry for the dust. It's static. Let's go on to my favorite, the cumulonimbus, or the stratocumulus,
Okay.
which are the really dramatic clouds.
Things may have changed. I mean, I was young, obviously, growing up in Ohio. I left, as soon as I was 18, I left. So I just only have terrible memories of weather, and, just the winters were terrible. I hated everything there. So I wonder how it compares now to, I mean, being in Colorado, because our skies are bluer because we're higher. Light is different because of the way it filters through, going through the mountains and everything. So I'm so curious to see the difference in your Midwest clouds and sky versus my Colorado ones.
I think the biggest difference is just the amount of atmosphere that's in the air.
Yeah.
Because Colorado is so dry, you don't have as many opportunities for the clouds to develop into these really dramatic cloud shapes.
Well, where I'm at, I am almost to the Wyoming border, and Wyoming is notorious for their wind and their weather, and it's awful. So I get to see a lot of really huge, like the ones you were talking about, the ones that go up as high and high and high as they can. We get a lot
Oh,
of
okay.
that I can see going out east. Because yeah, it's just I just love clouds. I could talk about them forever.
Oh, me too. Me too.
I constantly take pictures of clouds, but I can never figure out how to paint them.
Um, well, you can basically paint what you see, but I like to understand my subjects. So
Mhm.
that's why I've really taken a dive into the anatomy of clouds, and because I don't want to. If I'm plein air painting, I don't want to depend on sight, because clouds are constantly moving. So that really bothers or hinders a lot of people from painting, because their subject is moving, and so they're stuck. It's like, okay, what do I do? Well, what you do is you study the clouds, study your
Mhm.
subjects, and not just clouds, but trees, water, different types of water, whether it's clear or murky.
Yeah.
Study those, and that way you're not dependent on strictly visual. You can make things up and be believable in your renditions.
100%. Don Demers said that because somebody had asked him about he was painting a boat for something. And they're like, well, how do you know all of these different things? And he's just like, I've looked at boats, I've studied boats. So now he knows, when he's painting something, he doesn't have to have an exact reference image because he's painted enough of them to know what they are. And same thing with I'm gonna not remember her name, Christine Code. She paints these huge cloudscapes. And she said the same thing. You have to study your clouds. So now she can paint them from memory like you are because she knows what they look like. So
Yeah,
studying very, very important if you want to
yeah,
progress in that
and
area.
and like I said, that's true with any subject, whether it's clouds or trees or waves, ocean waves. Don Demers has talked about that too, about the number of hours and years he spent studying wave patterns,
Hmm.
and just even the fact that the big wave that everybody's looking for comes in like about every seventh wave.
Yeah.
Um, so you learn the patterns and the nuances of nature. So I'm painting the underneath sides of these clouds. These are the rain producing clouds. So they're going to have these shadowed underbellies. And these are the high drama. And of course, again, as they get off into the distance, they compress. Trying to be real careful about creating repeated patterns. Leave my brush off here, and we'll get some light in them. Right now, they're pretty much a one-dimensional object. Of course, this is a kind of a midday scene, a lot of blue sky, so we're going to honor where the light comes from, which is above.
Hmm.
This would be probably one of the few occasions where you have a hard edge on a cloud, as the tops of these cumulonimbus clouds. Got some regular cumulus over here that are picking up some light. got some wind going outside, so if you hear things popping and cracking, it's the wind.
Gotta love the wind.
Yeah.
We've got about 15 more minutes.
Oh my. Time flies when we're having fun.
It sure does.
So these are picking up some light areas. Wow, can't believe how fast time's going here. Okay, create some interest there. Using a little bit more of the side of the brush, it's a little softer and kind of blending in some of this gray and the light.
So somebody is asking, do you reverse the process and put dark over light when you're painting clouds?
Not normally. I generally paint, always paint from dark to light.
Yeah. Yeah, that's usually my process too.
So mix a little bit of lemon yellow and white, create the highlight. So yeah, as we can see here, clouds can be dramatic. They can make or break a painting.
Yes, I agree with that.
So in this scene, you can see, the clouds are beginning to billow and becoming just a little bit more threatening. So that's the drama that I like to create in a skyscape.
So when you're painting these on canvas and not actual acrylic, what kind of brush are you using?
Typically, I use a synthetic bristle round. It's a little stiffer than this soft brush that I'm using. This would be more of a watercolor brush. Actually, it's a synthetic sable round, a number 12. And the only reason I'm using it is because I'm painting on the acrylic. If I were to use a bristle brush, you'd see a lot of streaks.
Right.
Any other questions on cumulonimbus?
So someone just asked, are you is the highlight cooler or warmer because of the reflection of the sun or the sky? And it's coming from the sun, correct? Being that high up like that?
Cool and warm are relative terms.
Relative, right?
So it's relative to what's next to it. I don't personally think in terms of cool and warm. I think in terms of values, and so to get this light, that intense light, then I mix white and lemon yellow. The light below this is a little bit warmer comparatively to this highlight, and so I'll use just a little touch of CAD yellow medium to bring down not only the temperature but the value a little bit, and that mixes with the gray behind it to create the undulation of the cloud.
Very cool. Okay, we've got about 10 minutes. What cloud is next?
Okay. Yeah.
I want all the clouds.
Okay, so that creates that. This is the dew point where that warm air meets the cold air. That's why this is flat on the bottom. That's where the dew point is. Okay.
Does the dew point change depending on geographic location or on weather patterns?
Yes, to both. Dew point can change depending on the atmospheric pressure. If you've got a high pressure, a dome of high pressure, then that dew point is much higher than what it would be if there was a low pressure coming through. And so that puts the dew point closer to the ground. And so when the warm air comes in, those clouds like a cumulonimbus are much closer to the ground at the dew point.
Gotcha.
Where in your case, in Colorado, dew point's really high in the air. And so, below that point is really dry. Actually, the whole ecosystem, the atmospheric system there in Colorado is dry.
Yeah.
Okay. Any suggestions on which ones we want? Well, you probably don't really know. Let's see. Well, nimbus would be another dramatic cloud formation, and that would be really much similar to what we just painted. How much time do we have?
We have a little less than 10 minutes.
A little less than 10 minutes. Okay.
Yes.
So
Cheryl is asking, do you normally paint the entire sky one color before you add the clouds, or is that just for this demonstration?
that's just for this demo. A lot of times I will kind of sketch in, like where I want clouds to be, like kind of like this, and just kind of paint's not moving off of this brush very well on this acrylic, but kind of roughly sketch in where I'm going to be putting clouds. And where blue sky would be. So generally I want to keep, say this area right here, I want to be blue sky. So generally I don't want to paint over where there's blue sky because I want to take advantage of the white canvas underneath it.
Gotcha. So while he's adding this in, I am going to let you guys know that Rick is actually on faculty at our plein air convention coming up in May. He is going to be a field painter, so you better come to Pace so that you can paint some beautiful clouds along with Rick.
Yeah, and we're going to be in the Sierra Nevada area, so hopefully there'll be some nice clouds to take advantage of.
Have you ever, so obviously you're inventing clouds for this demonstration, but have you ever painted a scene and then or had a reference photo where there were no clouds and you decided to put them in?
I do that a lot. When I'm painting in the studio and either using a reference painting or photographs that I've taken, I will, I have probably 10,000 photos in my database here of clouds. And so I will Photoshop into a scene an interesting cloud, sky that has some really nice cloud formations. And so, yeah, I when I'm doing studio work, I do cheat a lot by, photoshopping really interesting cloud formations. And then, of course, as they get further away, they compress, and we start to lose those little peaks of sunshine. And then clean my brush out, grab some pure blue, which it's already
Dolores is
on.
asking what color combination you are currently using.
I'm using, of course, there's some white in it, but ultramarine blue, and then with a let's see, ultramarine blue, raw umber, and white to create the base gray. And depending on what's around it, if it's sunset or if it's a clear blue sky, I might add, a little bit of purple to it, which would be comprised of alizarin crimson and ultramarine blue.
Ooh, love that pop of sky.
That's that little pop of optimism I like putting in. Keep that. Put a little bit right here.
We are going to drop Rick's website and Instagram in the chat. You guys be sure to check him out. See what else you can learn from Rick with all of his skies and clouds. These are amazing.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook as well, and look me up on Facebook, Rick D. Wilson, and engage with me on Facebook, friend me, and ask questions. I'm very happy to talk to anyone. And so, this is our 𝗪𝗶𝗶 clouds.
I love it.
I forgot something I wanted to add to this. Would be those scud clouds, the ones that I really enjoy painting because they create so much depth in a painting.
What's a scud cloud?
After a rain, you've seen these low-hanging clouds. It's where the rain evaporates on the way down and creates these low-hanging clouds, and they're usually hanging out in the shadows of the clouds that are above. So they're kind of on the dark side,
Mm-hmm.
but they create some really cool patterns. These little streaming patterns that sometimes they connect, sometimes they don't. But they're a little closer to the ground and generally in shadow.
Yeah.
So this would be after a rainstorm and things are starting to break up.
Rick, everyone has loved your demonstration. Such a brilliant idea with the acrylic sheet and getting to learn all of these different types of clouds. I do love learning, so I loved the science of all of these clouds.
Well, good. I'm glad folks are enjoying this. And there again, it's not just about learning the science of clouds. It's about learning the science of everything. So, if you're interested in painting nature and want to create a believable representation of nature, it's good to study nature.
Which is why you should be plein air painting. So
exactly,
come to paint with Rick and all of our other wonderful artists that we're going to have there.
So while you're out plein air painting, we want to concentrate on our paintings, but let's not forget to study the subjects that we're painting as well.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much, Rick. This was wonderful. Thank you guys all so much for watching. This was so informative. And again, I think it's absolutely brilliant that you use those acrylic sheets. Everybody's talking about trying those out now. And
it's a good way not to mess up a painting.
Right? Exactly. Definitely. So thank you guys all so much. Thank you to Rick for joining us. I'm going to be here all week with you. We've got a great lineup of artists for this week. Don't forget that Acrylic Live starts tomorrow. So if you haven't signed up, it's not too late. We've got Essentials Day that starts tomorrow, and then we've got Acrylic Live the rest of the week. So it's a great opportunity to learn from a bunch of different artists all about acrylic painting. And again, Rick is going to be on faculty at Pace coming up in May. We've got a lineup of 80 artists that are going to be phenomenal to learn from. So I'm super excited. And we're going to be in Tahoe, which I've heard is beautiful. So I'm super excited to go there. So be sure to follow us on YouTube. You can follow Eric on Instagram. You can subscribe on YouTube so that you get a notification when we go live. So you will always have us for weekdays at noon Eastern time. Be sure to join us. And I'm super excited. And we will see you guys all tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.